Marcus was 42 years old, a senior software engineer in Austin, Texas, pulling in $285,000 a year. His kids went to a private school across town. He and his wife took 2 vacations every year, one family trip to somewhere like Cabo, one couple's trip to Europe. They had a meal kit subscription, a wine subscription, a gym membership neither of them fully used, and a yard service that came every Thursday whether the grass needed cutting or not. On paper, Marcus looked like he had made it. But here's what Marcus's coworkers didn't know. If his direct deposit was even 3 days late, he'd be overdraft. He had $900 in savings. He was carrying $18,000 across 3 credit cards. And when his car needed a $2,200 transmission repair last spring, he financed it at 24% interest. Marcus isn't a cautionary tale from a financial advice book. He's a pattern, a shockingly common one. According to a 2025 report, 41% of Americans earning between $300,000 and $500,000 say they live paycheck to paycheck. Among those earning over $500,000 a year, 40% say the same thing. Let that number sit with you. 4 out of 10 people making more in a single month than most Americans make in a year still feel like they're one emergency away from disaster. So today, I want to answer a question that almost nobody asks out loud. Why does earning more money sometimes make the financial stress worse, not better? And more importantly, what does it actually take to build real wealth? Because the answer might completely change how you think about money. We grow up believing that income is the solution. Get a better job, get a raise, get promoted, and the financial stress goes away. The data tells a completely different story. Researchers at Princeton actually studied the relationship between income and emotional well-being back in 2010. And famously found that beyond around $75,000 a year, additional income stopped meaningfully improving day-to-day happiness. They've since revisited those numbers as inflation changed things, but the core idea held: more money doesn't automatically mean more peace. Here's why. When your income goes up, something sneaky happens. Your baseline goes up with it. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. Whatever you have becomes normal. Whatever you don't have yet becomes the new goal. You're running hard, but the finish line keeps moving. When Marcus got his first $100,000 job, he treated himself to a nicer apartment. When he hit $200,000, the apartment became a house. When bonuses started coming, the house needed a renovation. None of these decisions felt reckless in the moment. Each one felt earned. But here's the trap. Luxuries become necessities the instant they become routine. That $14 daily cold brew from the cafe near your office, that's not a treat anymore. That's just Tuesday. The subscription services, the grocery delivery, the Peloton membership, each one started as a reward. Now they're just overhead. And overhead is the enemy of wealth. There's a phenomenon economists call consumption smoothing, the idea that as people earn more, they naturally spend more to maintain what feels like a proportional lifestyle. It's not irrational. It's actually wired into us. Your brain has a region called the ventral striatum. It's the reward center. And studies using brain imaging have shown that the anticipation of a purchase activates this region almost as strongly as the purchase itself. That new car smell, that first-class upgrade, that kitchen renovation, your brain gets a hit of dopamine before you even swipe the card. The problem is that dopamine reward fades fast. Within weeks, the new car is just your car. The brain resets to baseline, and now it needs something bigger to get the same hit. This is why raises rarely feel like raises for long. A 2023 study from Empower found that Americans consistently underestimate their own monthly spending by about 40%. People think they're spending $3,000 a month. They're actually spending closer to $5,000. The gap isn't because people are lying to themselves. It's because the spending happens in small, easy-to-ignore increments. $12.99 here. $24 there. A $179 dinner instead of cooking. Another subscription auto-renewed. None of these feel like decisions, but they are. They're just unconscious ones. Here's where this gets genuinely surprising. The people who build real, lasting wealth, they often don't look like it. The authors of the book The Millionaire Next Door, which studied over 1,000 American millionaires across multiple decades, found something counterintuitive. Most millionaires don't live like millionaires. They live in normal neighborhoods. They drive average cars. They clip coupons and negotiate prices. A 2025 study from Ramsey Solutions found that 94% of millionaires still live in middle-class or modest neighborhoods. Not penthouse apartments, not gated communities, Regular neighborhoods with regular neighbors. And here's a stat that should really make you stop scrolling. Only 31% of everyday millionaires ever averaged $100,000 or more per year during their working lives. Most of them built wealth on ordinary incomes, just over a very long time, with very consistent behavior. They introduced two categories that I think everyone should know. PW, prodigious accumulator of wealth. These are the people whose net worth is higher than you'd expect based on their income. They earn an average salary but save and invest aggressively. UAW, under accumulator of wealth. These are people whose net worth is far lower than it should be. They earn a lot. They spend more. Their lifestyle looks great. Their balance sheet looks terrible. A schoolteacher who maxes out her 401k every year can be more of a PAW than a cardiologist with a Porsche and $60,000 in credit card debt. The wealth isn't in the income. It's in the gap between income and spending. Let me show you how the mechanics actually work, because understanding the structure of the trap is what helps you escape it. When you're earning $50,000, your spending is naturally capped. The bank won't approve a $6,000 mortgage payment. The car dealership limits your loan. The system puts guardrails on you. When you're earning $300,000, the guardrails disappear, and something more dangerous replaces them: social expectations. At higher income levels, there are invisible social scripts. Your kids go to private school because that's what people in your income bracket do. You drive a certain type of car because showing up to a client meeting in a 2013 Civic feels embarrassing. You join the club. You do the vacation. You upgrade the house. And here's what makes it so dangerous. These aren't small, flexible expenses. They're commitments. You can cancel a streaming service in 30 seconds. You cannot pull your child out of private school mid-semester without psychological and social consequences. You cannot tell your spouse you're selling the vacation home without it feeling like failure. You can't downgrade the car without people asking questions. Each lifestyle upgrade locks in a new fixed cost floor. And the higher that floor gets, the less margin you have, regardless of what your income is. A family earning $80,000 spending $2,000 a month on housing? Stretched. A family earning $300,000 spending $8,000 a month on housing? Also stretched. Same psychological experience. Very different tax bracket. Let's look at a few real numbers from 2025, because these aren't theoretical. The U.S. personal savings rate in December 2025 was 3.6%. $3.60 saved out of every $100 earned. As a country, for context, during the pandemic savings peak in April 2020, that number hit 33.8%. Americans accidentally discovered what real saving felt like when there was nowhere to spend. And then the moment restrictions lifted, they spent it all back. Total U.S. credit card debt hit $1.277 trillion in Q4 2025, the highest number ever recorded since tracking began in 1999. That's up 66% since the pandemic lows. And here's the one that should shake high earners specifically. 36% of credit card holders earning over $100,000 carry a balance from month to month. These are people who absolutely have the income to pay off their cards, but the spending doesn't leave enough room. Now compare that to how actual wealth accumulators behave. Research from the Millionaire Next Door found that most millionaires invest at least 15% of their income before they spend on anything else. They don't save what's left over. They spend what's left after they save. That one behavioral shift, paying yourself first, is probably the single biggest difference between people who build wealth and people who look like they have wealth. There's one more layer to this that's gotten dramatically worse in the last decade, and it's one most financial content doesn't talk about honestly. Social comparison has always existed, but it used to be limited to your neighborhood. You kept up with the Joneses, literally the family next door, the people at your kids' school, your coworkers. That's a relatively small competitive set. Now, your comparison set is everyone on your Instagram feed, your LinkedIn network, your Twitter timeline. You're not comparing yourself to your neighbor anymore. You're comparing yourself to a carefully curated highlight reel of thousands of people, many of whom are more leveraged than you are, spending money they don't have to look like they do. A 2025 Goldman Sachs report explicitly listed keeping up with the Joneses as a primary driver of paycheck-to-paycheck living among high-income earners. People earning six figures feel financially inadequate because they're measuring themselves against the most visible version of everyone else's best moments. I want to make the math concrete because this is where it stops being abstract. Let's say you earn $300,000 a year. You have two scenarios. Scenario A, 5% savings rate. You save $15,000 per year. At 7% average annual returns over 20 years, you end up with roughly $650,000. Scenario B, 30% savings rate. You save $90,000 per year. Same 7% returns, same 20 years, you end up with roughly $4 million. The difference is $3.35 million. That's the price of the trap. Not in theory, in actual, compounded, real dollars. Real wealth isn't about a number. It's about freedom from financial fear. So how do you actually break out of this? Here are the 4 concrete moves. And I'm going to be real with you. They require honesty that can be uncomfortable. Move 1. Audit your fixed costs first. Don't start by cutting coffee. Start by asking about your biggest monthly commitments. Housing. What percentage of your take-home is going to your mortgage or rent? The traditional guidance is 28% or under. If you're at 40% plus, that one line item is eating your financial future. Private school, car payments, club memberships. Ask this question about each one. If I had never started this, would I start it today knowing what I know? If the answer is no, that's a lifestyle commitment you're maintaining out of inertia, not intention. Move number 2. Automate the saving before you see it. This is the single highest leverage behavior change that behavioral economists have identified. When savings happen automatically before your paycheck hits your checking account, you never miss it. You adapt to whatever's left. This isn't new advice, but the reason it works is rooted in a concept called loss aversion, discovered by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. We feel the pain of losing something about twice as strongly as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. Once money lands in your checking account, it psychologically becomes yours. Taking it out feels like a loss. Automate it before it ever arrives in your spending account, and you never experience the loss. You just live on what's left. If you can only automate 10% today, start there. Increase it by 1% every 3 months. You will not notice the difference month to month. You will notice the difference in 10 years. Move number 3. Define enough, deliberately and in writing. This one is unusual but powerful. Research from the Charles Schwab 2025 Modern Wealth Survey found that 63% of Americans said it feels like it takes more money to be wealthy today than it did just a year ago. The goalposts move every year, and if you don't define your own finish line, you will spend your entire career running toward one that keeps receding. What does enough actually look like for you? Marcus eventually figured this out. Not because he got a raise, not because he sold something. He sat down one Saturday morning, added up every recurring expense in his life, and asked himself, honestly, which ones he'd choose again if he were starting from scratch. He pulled his kids out of private school, took a hard look at the mortgage on a house with 4 bedrooms for a family of 3, cut the subscriptions he'd forgotten he had. Within 18 months, he had an emergency fund for the first time in his adult life. He started maxing out his 401k. He stopped waking up at 2 a.m. His life looks a little less impressive from the outside now. His balance sheet looks completely different. The trap isn't about income. It's about whether the money you earn is building a life or just performing one. More money was never going to fix a spending problem. But intentional choices, those fix everything. If this hit close to home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.